This week on SpokeTV, Waterloo Region does its part to mark Black History Month.
It's important that we have a Black History Month, but are we only going to think of Black history 1 month out of 12?
Plus, a remarkable story about a journey to recovery, and Dragon Den's Michael Weckerly stops by to talk about the Waterloo tech industry.
Whether it be a small innovation or a large innovation, but some great ideas and seeing the past history, it was really quite interesting to see the progression of some of the years when I wasn't a dragon.
Welcome to SpokeTV. I'm Megan Spotswood.
And I'm Amanda Hewson, and this is your source for local weekly news, produced by second-year journalism broadcast students from Conestoga College. February marks the end of Black History Month. All around Canada, seminars are held to inform residents and discuss pressing issues related to racism. SpokeTV's Matt Howell attends one of these sessions to find out more.
With February coming to an end, that also means the end of Black History Month, which is celebrating its 20th year in Canada. Events take place all over the world to educate and bring people together. And in Kitchener, historian and professor Joanna Rickard Hall gives lectures on just that.
Here's the question. It's important that we have a Black History Month, but are we only going to think of Black history 1 month out of 12? And
some people share Rickard Hall's same point of view.
History Month you find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month?
But with recent issues, such as police shootings of young black men in the U.S., the Black Lives Matters movement, and the Oscars being accused of favoring white people, the question is racism actively prevalent in Canada?
So
local musician Quentin Simon says he feels it is, specifically in the music industry, but does what he can to help unite people of all cultures.
It's like, personally me, if I could try changing it by my wordplay in the music that I create, which is, everyone uniting rather than, blacks, and forget whites. No, it has nothing to do with that. I personally feel like everyone needs to come together.
The question we need to ask ourselves as a society is, how can we eliminate racism? Anandi Carroll Willery, who's with the Caribbean Canadian Association of Waterloo Region, thinks knowing that Canada was built on multiculturalism is the resolution.
So I think if that were true here in Canada, that we knew who were the original people and what was the next wave of immigration, because sometimes Europeans are considered the true Canadians, and they're immigrants too. At some point, your forefathers would have had to come here.
For SpokeTV, I'm Matt Howell.
France has become the first country in the world to ban supermarkets from throwing away or destroying unsold food products, and they are urging other European countries to follow suit. SpokeTV's Lindsay Griesbach has more on what we're doing with our leftover food here in the region.
As of February 3rd, grocery stores in France must now donate all of their still edible food waste to charities and food banks. Although Canada currently holds no similar laws and food waste is still a problem, there's been a proposed motion to offer tax cuts to Canadian supermarkets for donating their food waste to charities. Valerie Tarasuk, a leading expert on Canadian food waste, thinks this is just a Band-Aid solution.
Do we want to be pouring more money into the system? I don't think we do. We've got a lot of evidence now that food charity is not a good solution to problems of food insecurity. And so, the movement around food waste will force France without question to start to invest more in the infrastructure of charitable food redistribution in its country.
She believes that the solution to Canada's food waste problem begins with raising the country's income floor so that everyone can afford to buy food. There are already several policies and actions in place that are helping to make sure local food waste goes as far as it can.
Waterloo Region Food Bank takes in about 5 million pounds of food every year. About 10% of that already comes from grocery store food waste, which they can store in their large capacity storage warehouse.
Wendy Campbell says that the support from the region has been extraordinary.
We are so thankful for the partnerships we do have in the community, and definitely work with our store managers and store staff and their head offices on a regular basis, and grateful that they acknowledge the work that we're doing and do everything they can to support it.
If the food bank's donations increase in the future from a law similar to the one in France, they should have the capacity and manpower to store it. For SpokeTV, I'm Lindsay Griesbach.
After the break, we have a special guest in studio. Dragon Den's Michael Weckerly takes a look at the thriving tech industry in Waterloo Region.
Paramedic, policing, and firefighting programs at Conestoga College have received a new pre-hospital care lab at the Dune campus. The lab allows students to prepare themselves for real-life situations in a controlled environment. SpokeTV's Natalie McCallum visited the lab to find out more.
Life and death situations are unavoidable, but what if you could be prepared for them? For some students studying at Conestoga, this has just become possible. The Moats Pre-Hospital Care Lab that opened at Conestoga on February 4th gives paramedic, policing, and firefighting students real-life emergency training that they'll need to succeed within their future career fields. The facility has identical equipment that is being used by professionals working in these fields. It also includes a projection screen wall for mock emergencies as well as a mock ambulance.
It's getting used to doing things that are pressure situations, but where the consequences, if you make a mistake, you have a chance to do it again. Whereas if you put them out in real life situations right away, if they make a mistake, it can be deadly.
Even though Conestoga already has an ambulance and fire truck on campus, Alexander Andreevich feels that this facility gives him a more hands-on and in-depth look at what exactly he could face in his future.
We're able to, go into a real-life situation and be able to confidently put those pieces of equipment and confidently assess a patient in a real-life scenario.
The facility was only made possible thanks to a generous donation from the Moats family, costing approximately $275,000. This is not the first time they have decided to better the community and give back to the college. For SpokeTV, I'm Natalie McCallum.
Thanks, Natalie. Conestoga College recently held a vote to decide on the possibility of the universal bus pass fee being included in all students' tuition. SpokeTV's Shruti Rajagopalan explains the results.
Conestoga Students Inc. held a referendum on the first week of February on implementing the 12-month universal bus pass. The college received approximately 3,700 votes, among which 2,000 students were not in favor of the U-Pass. The votes received calculate to roughly 31% of the full-time students' population. Conestoga College will not be implementing the U-Pass. For SpokeTV, I am Shruti Rajagopalan.
This week, SpokeTV's Sarah McKeever had the pleasure of talking to Michael Weckerly, current judge of the hit Canadian television show Dragon's Den. The Dragon discussed what he looks for from the Waterloo tech industry, as well as what he expects from young entrepreneurs in the area.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with the Dragon from Dragon's Den, Michael Weckerly.
Thank you, Sarah.
Michael Weckerly stopped by the studio to chat with SpokeTV about the tech industry in Waterloo and upcoming auditions for Dragon's Den.
So Dragon's Den has auditions coming up in Waterloo in
March 9th.
That's right.
Just have them go off.
What are you expecting from these pitches?
I'm really excited. This year we're doing a little secret out here that we're going to be looking at potentially integrating the crowd into co-investing with the Dragons. We're looking at different ways to do it, so it's still very infancy stage. But a big part of it, I'm really looking at, and last year we saw a whole bunch of Canadians from either side of the East Coast to the West Coast that had, whether it be a small innovation or a large innovation, but some great ideas and seeing the past history, it was really quite interesting to see the progression of some of the years when I wasn't a Dragon. I believe it's a great venue and it's really about entrepreneurs. It's really about the chance to get access to capital, but not just capital, but exposure. So the Dragon's Den, I think, is going to be this year really focused on visibility. Is going to be focused on, audience participation in various forums, and I think that's going to be a real telltale sign to where Canada's going because we have the technology and it's progressing forward. There's a lot of great talent. I'm here at Conestoga College, and I spent about 2 months ago walking through and giving a speech here, and I'll tell you, the professors here are spectacular. And it's a really strong community, which is hence I bought a place in Kitchener, and I have a place in a little Cottage Lake, so I'm very well entrenched here, so you can't get rid of me that quick now.
That's great. Now, with the abundance of students in the Waterloo area, are you expecting more and more students to audition?
Oh yes,
for Dragon's Den?
I think it's going to be great, and I think we've seen a lot of it come through, but there's so much dedication here by the professors to create cooperative programs. The companies coming in here are located in that corridor because they want to employ the students that are excelling and give them a chance to take their skills to a practical level. And they just announced, not too long ago, a $100 million facility to add 2,000 more students that graduating from engineering. And There's 30,000 engineering students for the province of Ontario versus 26,000 in the whole state of California. That's a huge triumph, man. We should be proud.
Is there anything else you want to add at all?
Yeah, well, I just think that, one thing about Waterloo is that, I talk to people in Toronto, and I grew up 52 years in Toronto, and now I'm transplanting myself in Waterloo. I drove this morning, and it's about an hour drive in the early morning, maybe an hour and a half in traffic. But there's numerous people that go from Toronto to Muskoka and go to cottage country. Yet if I ask someone, when's the last time they came to Waterloo, they say, oh man, I can't remember. I think I had a friend of mine that went there, and it's years ago. Yet it's such a dynamic community here. There's great arts, there's a great jazz festival, there's great capability here to really go there and see what the community is about. It's one of the unique communities in Canada, and not too dissimilar than we see in Ottawa or Montreal or in other parts of the West or the East. It's about dedication, about a group of people that, have come here for a specific rule of going to university, but about 30% stay here. It's really creating a great dynamic workforce, and I think Canada should be very proud of where this is going to take us, because we can't rely on a cyclical economy our whole life. We have cycles that go into whether oil price is $9 or $90, it's irrelevant to the rest of the world. But to Canada, it's very important today. We should not rely upon that, because the intellectual capital here of a group of companies have been bought out by numerous companies, and BlackBerry, unfortunately, is going, south of the border because it's a model that is more of a software model than a hardware model, and that's just competitiveness. You can't compete with some of the low cost and low cost employees in parts of the world. That being said, you can use that and collaborate rather than compete. And there's great collaboration because the intellectual capital is here.
Auditions for Dragon's Den are happening in Waterloo this March. For details, visit cbc.ca. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, SpokeTV. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Back to you guys.
Thanks, Sarah. Coming up next, a touching story about a teacher on her way to recovery after being severely injured by a motorist while biking.
Julie Sawchuk was hit by a car while cycling north of London, Ontario last summer. She was severely injured, breaking her back and her neck. Ali Sieber-Payton brings us a story of her current journey to recovery.
Julie Sawchuk is a teacher, a mother, a wife, and an athlete. She lives right outside of Blythe, Ontario, a small, quaint community on the edge of North Huron with a population of about 1,000 people. She teaches at Effie Medill Secondary School in Wingham, which is about a 15-minute drive southwest of Blythe. She is a biology teacher and an environmental studies teacher. Sawchuk is also a mother of two.
I would go west to Auburn, and then I went south and around to Ben Miller, and then out to Highway 21, and then up north on Highway 21 to 25, and then I was coming back. So I was on the home stretch kind of thing on my way to Carlow, between the highway and Carlow, going on that stretch that's really straight and long, sort of slow uphill gradual climb. Very good visibility for drivers.
Just wasn't paying attention.
He didn't see me, so he says.
Sawchuk was taken by ambulance to the Goderich Hospital and then later airlifted to London. She suffered a broken back and a broken neck, among other things. Ironically, a couple days before her accident, she sent in a letter to the editor to the local newspaper, expressing how important it is to leave space for cyclists and others while on highways.
And I was basically just talking about how, bikes are vehicles too, and you need to give them space, and we can't pull off onto the road just because you want to pass. I also talked about the good vehicles that have passed me, and there's been a lot of times when transports and lots of other vehicles have given me the whole lane, so they pull right into the other lane to pass me and properly treating me like I'm a car.
Alex Raynard, a former student of Sawchuk, expresses why you should leave space for cyclists.
You can see them clearly, just move over a meter or 2 meters or however much it is. It's not that hard to do.
It's been about 7 months since the day of the accident. Sawchuk has gone through different types of therapies. She does physiotherapy and swimming in Wingham, and she uses the exoskeleton in London. Bill Glacier is Sawchuk's physiotherapist in Wingham and lets us know about her improvements and what we can expect from her in the coming months.
Her sitting tolerance and that has improved quite a bit. She's got better tone and better reaction time to some writing reflexes in her core. And in the abdominals and that, I would say there's the biggest improvement. She's starting to get some sensations down in her hips and that. We're working at trying to work where she gets spasms in her legs, and we're kind of working with them in a roundabout way to see whether we can incorporate some more purposeful movement in that. And some of the exercise that we're doing, we're kind of working with the spasms instead of fighting against them so much. So, on that. Overall, her strength has improved and her endurance has improved. I know from what she's reporting with the exoskeleton that like her strength and endurance are both improving in her ability to walk the exoskeleton. So we're quite pleased with that part of it. A year from now, I see her whizzing about in her. Still, I would say she'd probably be more in her chair and that, but she's going to be much more independent. She's going to be doing, not needing as much help for people like to rely on to give her rides and things like that when she starts to drive. She'll have tricked out a way or figured out a way to bring her chair in and out of her vehicle, so she's going to be more independent that way. She'll be back teaching at the school and somehow barking out instructions to her coaching and stuff like that. So more and more normal routines. Some of it she might still have to be from a seated position, but back to more of her normal routines.
In Sawchuck's blog, she writes about how they may have to find a new home.
We're probably going to stay here, and we're probably going to build a new home on this lot. It's a 2-story farmhouse, old, not accessible. We had to build a ramp so that I could even just get into the house. We widened the bathroom door and put in a roll-in shower in the bathroom. Okay. We took the cupboards under the kitchen sink so I can roll in under the kitchen sink. Okay.
It can happen that over the years the floors become a little uneven. The new home they will build will be fully accessible to her needs. Sawchuck writes in her blog frequently. She lets her followers know how she is doing that day. Recovery is a long journey, but she will get there, with one step at a time and a little help from her friends.
Thanks, Sally. We will keep up to date with her progress. Waterloo bylaw officers' jobs will be made a lot easier this March as the introduction of a new tech-savvy car brings ease to applying parking infractions. SpokeTV's Kelly Golden checks out the new car.
A new vehicle was unveiled in Waterloo last week. The vehicle, a Jeep, is equipped with cameras in order to monitor parked cars in Uptown Waterloo, giving bylaw the ability to ticket cars more easily. Bylaw officer with the City of Waterloo, Grant Curlew, explains how it works.
This vehicle will automatically track or detect a license plate, and it'll notify the officer when the vehicle has been parked over the time limit.
The showing of the car took place at Rim Park last Thursday, where citizens were invited to come out and ask questions. Local Waterloo resident and driver Eric Hibbs shares his views on the concept.
I think it's a very flawed concept. There's a lot of errors that can come with a computer that a human might be able to catch. It's going to be harder for a single vehicle to keep a track of all the cars as if you have 15 to 20 bylaw officers out and about and doing their job. So it could benefit Waterloo. The safety of bylaw officers could be protected more so than having to engage with individuals.
With this method of license plate recognition, officers will be able to ticket cars more accurately. It will also free up parking spaces in the city's busiest locations.
The vehicle will likely be on the roads nearing the beginning of March, if given the go-ahead from Council. For SpokeTV, I'm Kelly Golden.
Stay tuned to find out how you can avoid parking dilemmas when attending a Kitchener Rangers game.
After 10 years as Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony's music director, Edwin Outwater is exiting stage left. SpokeTV's Kyle Roykers visited the beautiful KW Symphony.
The Kitchener-Waterloo Symphony will have a new music director come the end of this season. Current director Edwin Outwater has announced that this term, his 10th, will be his last. Outwater often conducts the Chicago and New World Symphonies. Here, with this group at Center in the Square, he's conducting a rehearsal. Classical music is often thought too formal or high society, but Outwater believes it was often meant for the middle class.
So what we want to do is kind of remove those barriers without dumbing down the music, still playing great music, but exposing people directly to it.
Outwater is leaving some pretty big shoes to be filled, but don't think you've seen the last of him yet.
Well, I've been named conductor laureate upon my departure as music director, and I have a feeling I won't be able to escape the Waterloo region. There are all sorts of things brewing.
From the Conrad Center for the Performing Arts, the KW Symphony Orchestra has been a dynamic mix of musical styles while on Outwater's watch.
Seeing one conductor kind of finish and a new one come in is some of the most exciting times to follow an orchestra. So I hope for my final season the audiences and the interest is bigger than ever.
He was quoted as saying, "Make it as disco as possible," by a local columnist when rehearsing in 2014. It's expected that this year will be no different, and the symphony will push every boundary it can find to bring its signature flavor to the stage. For SpokeTV, I'm Kyle Royakers.
A school bus is helping to alleviate parking woes at Rangers games. The Rangers Express bus takes fans from restaurants to the auditorium for free, eliminating the stresses of finding parking in a limited space. Peter Scott tags along for the ride.
One of the major attractions in Kitchener is the hometown Rangers. Playing in the OHL, the Rangers have been strongly supported by the community since their inception in 1963 while playing in the old OHA. One issue that plagues many fans is the parking situation. With limited spots, many fans are forced to park on neighboring streets or walk from their homes. With this in mind, some restaurants teamed up with the Rangers to create the Rangers Express. Bus driver Peggy Geisel explains what the Ranger Express is.
I'm here to pick up the Rangers fans and take them to the game at the auditorium. Every single home game we provide this service. Okay. It also provides a pleasant service for the fans.
The program allows fans to park their car at the restaurant. They can enjoy special game day drink and meal deals. They also get a free ride to and from the game on a bus, and they don't have to worry about parking at the game. The Ranger Express runs from many different restaurants, including St. Louis Bar and Grill in Waterloo. Ranger fan Harold DeVries and his son Michael enjoy the convenience and stress relief that the program provides.
Actually, we do it all the time because it's so much more convenient because we can be home in half the time, because if you have to go to the auditorium and park, it's chaos. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare because there's not enough parking there.
With the relief stress of not having to deal with parking, not having to drive to and from the game, and the consistency of having this service available for every home game, the bus rides from the restaurants sure score a hat trick with all fans. Now, if I'm going to enjoy this Ranger game, I think I have to change my outfit. There, that's better. For SpokeTV, I'm Peter Scott.
Would you go to a Rangers game with Peter?
I don't know. I think I'd only go with him if he was dressed up like that. That's all we have for you this week. For SpokeTV from Conestoga College, I'm Megan Spotswood.
And I'm Amanda Houston. For more news and information, visit spoketv.ca or follow us on Twitter.
I don't know if I go to
I don't really want to go to a game with him at all.